So, thank you everyone for joining us today. I know I overpromised this morning. I was trying to debate you to come to this session. Hopefully, you will not leave too disappointed. And it's very welcoming to have you here today. Okay, so the agenda will be, we'll give you a nice introduction on why we think that CyberSANE is relevant and what are the security problems that we try to solve. We're going to go on a journey to understand why we get to this place now, what has happened in the last 40 years that drove us here. Then Thanos will take the button from me and we'll show you CyberSANE and what you have inside of the platform. Armend will take it off for the business models, the money talk. It's boring. If you want to leave at that time, nobody's going to complain. Nobody's going to pick you up. No, just kidding. And then after the short break, we'll talk about the pilots and what we did and what we are going to work on for standardization. Okay, so hopefully this just works out. We do at the same time. Yeah. Okay, I promised that you would start this session as a 0 and you would leave this as an 0. Hopefully, we'll get there. At least I would have piqued your interest in the way that you will research whatever I'm talking about and learn more about that stuff and just get better just knowing them. So if this sounds like a soap opera, it's because I'm going to tell you a story, and it's going to be a bit of a soap opera. And I'm going to be a bit dramatic, but it's important to learn the past so that we don't repeat the same mistakes in the future. Okay. In the Stone Age of cybersecurity, when was the Stone Age of cybersecurity? 1980s, right? There was no security. Everything was thought of as tech. That's for nerds. Nobody knows anything about tech. So you could phone for free. You have computers that booted without asking you for a password, right? You just boot into a shell and you are root. You have the machine for yourselves. Then a lot of virus started to come out, and the most famous one that started raising awareness about cybersecurity was the Morris worm, right? This was a virus that would spread itself to all of the computers around it. So all of the networks were installed that were connected to it were vulnerable to the same kind of issues, and it was massive around. If you want to consider in terms of how many computers from the old sort of computers were infected, this is probably the most effective ever virus to ever be created. And so it basically jump-started the antivirus industry. Before this, there were no antivirus going down on your computer. No Microsoft Defender, no McAfee, no Symantec, no nothing. You just run your computer and it was all yours. It was also here that somebody went, wait, we need security experts. We need to start understanding what incident response is. Network monitoring at the time, non-existent. The first firewall comes into existence in the 90s. Right here you see also Norton Antivirus, probably already familiar with that. And you see Snort being built. Snort was the first big software to do network detection intrusion, and it's still used today. It's spin off into a company called SourceFire that was later sold to Cisco by 2.3 billion, right? And an open source project started in the late 90s. Okay, network monitoring started here. Logs were not a thing. Nobody knew what log records were or auditing was. And then another event happened. This lady changed the face of cybersecurity. Why? Because it was the first social engineering. You guys know what this idea is, right? Maybe the old gray ones. This is Anna Kournikova. So she was a very famous and pretty, as you can see, tennis player. So this was the first real social engineering scheme that was massive. You would send an email with a photo of Anna, and you have this little file, this little VBS file that was attached in your email. This was actually a virus, and you would download it, and your Windows would happily running the virus without knowing what's going on. And so massive deployments of botnets and everything at the time. It was very, very smart. The guy that created the virus was really out of his league. on a league of his own, let's say it like that. Okay. The first open source antivirus was born here, Clamavi. Anonymous was born in 2003. Anonymous is still relevant today because it's not one person, it's a collective of minds that call themselves anonymous to maintain their anonymity, so which is funny. And in the early 2000s, 2 or 3 viruses changed the landscape. Windows was famous for being bad. Security was awful. If you want to be secure, you didn't use Windows. You would use some kind of Linux, FreeBSD, OpenBSD, whatever. And when the Blaster worm would come up, you would be gaming, and somebody would just knock you right out of the internet. It was just, you would get your direct IP, point blocker at the Blaster worm at you, and of service, full screen of that every time. This repeated again and again. And in 2008, Microsoft said, enough. Configure was the last straw. From here now, our security posture is going to be really, really hard. And they really improved, made it to where it's deserved. They created a security team. That security team did massive reviews of code before deploying new code. And in 2019, something changed our minds. Google was attacked by not a person, but a country itself. China is credited, rumors, nobody knows, attacked Google and was one of the main reasons why Google exited the Chinese market. And here we start to see the first security focused companies, Checkpoint, some names that you probably never seen and never will see again, LogLogic, and so. But this is really where the beginning starts. But let's go for what was the mindset of an attacker. First, you need to gather information about whatever you are attacking. You need to identify the vulnerabilities. You need to, after you get those vulnerabilities, find the right exploit to break into the system. And now try to figure it out, where are your most valuable assets? This takes energy, this makes noise. This is what allows security defenders to try to identify the attacks. Then you try to figure out, where is the pot of gold? Where can you put the money and take it on? And this might be just getting resources to do GPU mining of crypto coins, ransomware. It could be spied upon by a nation state, or whatever else is the motive for the attack. The next step is to make sure that even after that machine has been formatted, you still get control of the machine. This is a way to get persistent compromise of that network, of that machine. Might it be going to a very low level like the firmware, or infecting so many machines at the same time that when one is cleaned, it's automatically reinfected by the other ones. And the next step is try to do this with as little evidence as possible to keep the network compromised for as long as possible. Then you see the defender mindset. This defender sees, I've got all of these security appliances. I've got EDRs, I've got sonars, I've got XDRs, I've got yada, 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 yada. I have the Ferraris on the Porsches and the Maseratis of security appliances. But they are just like the Ferraris. You can't drive them in the streets. They are nice to bring your friends and show them and say, I'm rich. But you can't really use them. You need people and you need good roads to use them. And you see the organization as having this wall of China. You have drones here, you have people there. Everything is on your side, so nobody can attack you. And then you see the attackers as being like, okay, there are the security kids that just run stuff from the internet. The wall will protect us from those. We have the national security agencies from countries, and we have the guys that are already in, and you don't even know. They already built tunnels between your firewall and your in. And this is still the way that people see the defining mindset. My personally better view is this one. Most of the attacks is a guy putting a ladder onto your wall and climbing in. A guy, it's not a team, it's not massively. Why? Because for the last 40 years, you have this set of blocks that are providing internet to everyone, and they are all stacked in some vulnerability, in some application that's being maintained by the same guy for the last 40 years. And a recent attack comes to mind where a guy that wrote Karantjias got fed up that so many projects were using his little JavaScript library and nobody was paying him money, and he deliberately broke his library and replaced it with random code. And he broke half of the internet with this. And most of the attacks are like this. It's not very sophisticated. You need to be 10 years researching to rebuild it. Okay, what does this bring us to in terms of security? What do we need to do? What are the basics 101 that we need to ensure and protect you, at least the basics? First, assets. You need to know which machines are yours and which servers they are running. And if you say, hey, Luis, that's basic, everybody knows that. No, you know that because it's your computer, it's your phone. An organization, nobody knows. Most of organizations don't have one guy that knows, and you can pick any one of that organization that knows everything that's running there. Most of them, and I say most, I say 99.9%. Nobody knows. It's very hard. It's a very hard problem because every day new stuff is coming up. You have legacy. You just come into the company, the guy that worked that left. So it's a mess. Logs. Without logs, you can't analyze anything. Logs are the quintessential tool, let's call it like that the security analyst would be able to piece up what happened in the attack. And then after logs, it came network monitoring. You need to know which protocols are on your network, try to detect attacks, try to be proactive in your defense. And this involved threat detection, threat correlation. And when you get all these threats and you need to create incidents, you need to create security incidents. But what do you do with security incidents? You need to have teams that go through those security incidents and make something out of them. And they need to know what to do to each type of threat. And there are thousands of threats. So you need to know a lot. This is where a platform like CyberSANE can help. Reporting, and at this time, the first time of the CMs, the scalings were around, you processed like millions of events per day. Okay, nothing was so large that you could not, that there were nobody that was, or at least you could count them by the fingers on your hands that would have more than 1 million of events per day. Telcos and not much more. Okay, we are getting close to our age, right? So in the 10s, Snowden changed the game. Snowden reported to the world, this is how the states that have deep pockets do it. And in 2014, the Yahoo was hacked and was massively hacked. It was discovered that more than 50 million accounts have been compromised for many, many years. Nobody knew about it. They were really, really low key. It led to the CISO being, let's say, changing jobs at the time. And we saw, okay, this is, now we learned the lesson. We now know that we need to take care of security. But then with what Snowden came up and with the NSA leaks that follow that, the Eternal Blue became known. The Eternal Blue, for you guys that maybe are not familiar with it, was a attacker's kit that was developed by the NSA to hack their non-allied nations, let's put it like that. When that became public, the first thing that you do, you weaponize it. And now you make a war and you made WannaCry. And does anybody here know why WannaCry was not massive and destroyed everything? Nobody? Because there was one guy in one basement, I don't know if it was one basement, but let's say for the point of this argument that it was reversing engineering a first early infection of the virus and figured it out that there was a kill switch. And if you registered a given domain, the virus would become ineffective because it was a two-way virus. The first stage would download itself, the second stage would be the malware itself. And if the domain, if it tried to check that domain if it existed, and if it was existed, it'd say, okay, I don't no longer do anything, and it didn't download the virus itself. So many of the machines that were infected did not go to the second stage. And so destruction was not massive, even though it was widely noticed on the news outlets that it was a massive attack. We were very, very, very lucky. Had this not happened, half of the internet would have been in disarray. In 2017 and 18, the Equifax hack happened. Millions of insurance claims and insurance accounts were leaked. They are still paying to this day a class action suit against them for having their data poorly protected. Okay, this slide is a bit complex, but what I want to capture here is that since everything has been encrypted by default on the last years, network encryption is no longer a thing. Encryption killed it. Network encryption is irrelevant. In the old days, this is what you do. You'd install a snitcher, and you could understand everything that would come out of the network tap. You would see that it was HTTP, you would see the headers, the size would be small. A guy could do this easily. Nowadays, go to Google, open your browser, and try to inspect Google's code. Everything is now anonymized or minified with weird algorithms. Everything is huge. Even Google's pages remain clean along the years. It's like, I don't know how many kilobytes of data. Even doing analysis on this isn't insane. Okay, what are the next steps? What were the CM 2.0? Let's call it like that. So we started to be more focused on risk, and we start to do profiling and baselining and understanding user behavior, the beginnings of it at least, and try to make detections not based on signatures like antivirus, but saying, we get a guy that comes here to work on Mondays from 9 to 5. If he's logging in on Sundays at 2 a.m., he's probably phishing. But not much more than that. And we got to a point where we now have 1 billion events per day, which is a lot to take in, a lot to digest. And so I'm going to play a game with you. I'm going to bring one of the most famous CMs for the last 10 years or 20 years, and I'm going to ask whoever knows the name. I'm going to see what it does. Does anybody know which CM this is? There are so many. This is my point. Nobody knows. This one is dead. Nobody uses this anymore. It's RSA in Vision. It was all of the rage in the early 2010s because the guy, security consultant, would come to your company and say, 1 million euros, I'll solve your security issues forever, everything else. And then you would put in your firewall logs for 1 day. It would take 1.5 days to search. It was worse than having one single file that you just grab through it. So it was really, really one of the worst tools that I ever had the displeasure of running through. This one. Anybody recognize this one? These guys are still alive today. They're still alive, still selling a lot of money. It's SolarWinds, a side B CM that still is making millions today. The new guy. This one is your generation needs to know. It's one of the new guys in the block. It's pretty. It's Web 2.0. Everything is flat, no gradients and stuff. So it's not made by gray beaters, clearly. It's made by people who understand design. This is the log. This is the new boy in town. For logs, it's all the rage. My personal favorite. This is probably one of the most widely deployed tools for collecting and managing logs.
Is it Splunk?
It is Splunk. Well then. 1 for 3, 1 for 4. Okay, this one. It's the most installed corporate CM. No. Yeah, actually, you're right. Probably Grafana is not the most installed. This is the paid version, the corporate CM that's most installed, at least whenever I talk to people.
I know this.
You know this. Can you care to go for
IBM Curated?
IBM Curated. Hold on. It looks pretty. It's massive. It's IBM. It's expensive, and it requires a lot of resources to get ready. Okay, this one is Telius. Which one is this one?
Oh no.
Also one of the new kids in the block. Not so low. Yeah, it's ArcSight. Well, probably the second biggest installation. Maybe it rivalizes with IBM Curated for the first. And lastly, the most famous one that's now taking the market is on the rage because it's free.
This is very
Robert?
no.
Close? Not
It's
Grafana.
Kibana.
It's Kibana, which is very pretty. It's like Grafana, but this is Kibana with Elasticsearch. This is what now it's all the rage. Almost everybody that doesn't want to spend their arm and their leg in the CM installs. It's this one. And so we get to this place where we're now entering, let's say, the third age of real cybersecurity. And we say, there are no standards that work for us. So we are going to create the standard that's going to rule them all. And we have 20 standards, and now we have 21. That's nobody's going to adopt. That's the sad truth about cybersecurity. There are so many standards, so many things, but hardly any one of them takes the lead and says, I'm the one that you should adopt. But what do we mention when I see CM 3.0? User behavior analytics. This is very important. Understanding what your user is doing on the machine. Deep packet inspection. This is very intrusive, but it's needed so that you can understand what's going on in your network. Machine learning models. This is all the rage. Some companies have made millions with it. It's very hard to deploy internally. It's very hard to do by hand. Normally, wait out. A risk-based approach, where you just say, okay, I have 1 million assets, but maybe these 10 are the ones that are really critical, that keep on the lights in terms of business. So these are the ones that I really need to take care of because I cannot protect 1 million. And finally, standardization. And by standardization, I don't say bureaucratic stuff, ISO committees and whatever and whatnot. I say pragmatic stuff. Go for stuff that works and make that standard. That's the way that almost all of these went, except X6, which is actually a standard that was created by a committee that was then accepted. But it's an improved version. The version originally was the XML. Nobody liked that. The new version of the 2.0 beyond, it's now a JSON standard that is being used in many, many places, including MISP. MISP, for me, is one of the references that came out of the European Union funding projects. It's a sharing platform that's open to everybody that you can connect distributedly, just for a specific subset, but it does its job. It does its job well. It's widely accepted. And now, the proposal that I bring to the table, Sigma rules and the ARES rules. What are, Sigma rules and the ARES rules, I'll get back later, but are basically a standard to define what rules you should have on your CM, what rules you should have to look for files and network intrusions. What problems are recursed in every age? We are always changing and iterating over the same thing. Every time we drop a CM and adopt another one, we repeat the same rules. This is why we need something like Sigma, where we say, this is a standard. And then we just generate the rules for each of the CMs that we're going to use. And it's always the same rules. But we already spent millions of euros in our previous security appliances. We don't want to drop that. We are going to get our assets fired if we do that. And so we have the eternal beginner's curse. We are always starting from zero in most of the companies. And we are repeating ourselves all of the time. Onboarding security teams, non-security teams. We don't have the baselines. We don't understand what's false positives, what's false negatives. We are like hamsters on a wheel, always doing the same stuff. This is very frustrating because you do this for 5 years, you get burned out, you leave, you take all of the knowledge with you. The new guy comes in, starts again from zero. What are the alternatives? Create a strategy, make multiple steps. This is just for having multiple steps. But define rules, review them, audit them, and repeat. It's not that difficult. And what I propose to define the rules, Sigma. Sigma is my third love, let's put it like that. And it is to log files. What snort is for network traffic, and what Yara is for files. It's a way to define how to identify broken behaviors, how to identify signatures in files and packets. And it's focused on simplicity. It's focused on the 95% that work. You forget about the 5% that are too hard to implement. And how does it work? You define your rules. You have a converter for each one of the appliances that you want, and you get your meta rules converted into that appliance. Might it be Splunk, Elasticsearch, whatever, but it's always the same rules. And how does this tie in with existing standards and best practices? Attack meter is the current reference internationally on what type of attacks you are going to suffer. This is a large taxonomy, and this is what it looks like to have a Sigma rule that's going to be applied for attack meter. You have a set of descriptions, a set of JSON, but it's agnostic of the tool that's going to run it. And there are tons of them outside. There are a lot of people that spend their days creating this for you so that you can benefit from those. Okay, and what's the future? How do you get out of this mess? You've heard about SOARs, you've heard about SIRPs, and it's all about automation orchestration. Without this, you cannot work with billions of events per day. And this is why CyberSANE is a good platform for you. It's a platform that is going to take the best of the tools that you already have deployed. You don't need to change them, just need to integrate with an existing standard and platforms. And that's it. And since we're running out of time, and maybe questions can be for later. But if you really want, I can give you my email at the end. Just ask me in person. Okay, guys. Thank you very much. And I'll pass. You probably want your presentation. And it's number 3. I will start with. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you. So I will have to sit because I will perform a live demo of the CyberSANE, the platform that we have built during this project. But I would like to take the lead from what Luis presented previously and say something that, okay, based on this introduction, what we imagine to create here at this project is to create a platform that will be used as a meta tool based on each one of the tools and the technologies that you have just seen in Luis' presentation. We don't want to build a new CM, a more advanced CM. We need to further build upon, utilize the functionalities provided from these tools and build upon more advanced services. So the CyberSANE actually consists of these main components. You can see it on the sub-menu on this list. First of all, LiveNet. What is LiveNet? LiveNet is actually a CM behind it. It is the component that undertakes the responsibility to real-time identify events. If this tool, one or more, is advanced, probably it performs further analysis. It can identify the type of the event, if this is a security incident, if this is an attack pattern or an anomaly, and we will see later on. And of course, it can further classify this event and so on. Darknet. Darknet is the component in CyberSANE that takes the responsibility to crawl the deep and dark web in order to identify possible articles based on keywords, based on concepts, based on categories that the user can specify, based on the specific date duration. So if, for example, I'm finding out that there is a security incident in my critical infrastructure, probably I would like to see, is there any discussion for this type of event, for this specific event in the deep and dark web? Hibernate. Hibernate, it is the component that either on itself or on the results coming from LiveNet, it implements data analysis techniques and machine learning in order to identify attack patterns and anomalies based on the events that we have, based on the log collection that we have. So ShareNet is the next main component of the CyberSANE platform, which help us to disseminate, let's say, what we found in our infrastructure following a systematic way. For example, it allows us to share the type of events, whatever we like, whatever you will see later on, with external the organization entities, either automatically or manually. But in order to perform this sharing process, we need, for example, we need to apply privacy on this sharing process, because assuming that I have a given asset, the incident that will result from LiveNet or HybridNet will have the very detailed description of my asset. But at the sharing, when I want to share this with MISP of Concordia, for example, or with Sparta, let's say, I don't want to share the internal IP of my asset. Therefore, I need some privacy techniques to be performed on the sharing process on specific attributes in order for this process to be more secure, let's say. So all these 5 components comes together and builds a decision-making tool, what we call the CyberSANE platform. In order to implement the functionalities provided for this platform, we had the problem how we will give all these functionalities, because as you can understand, behind LiveNet, behind Darknet, behind HybridNet, ShareNet, and PrivacyNet, there's existing tools integrated with our main platform. We don't build a new crawler for the deep and dark web. We rely on existing tools. Behind these 5 components, currently for the project BIM, there are 13 tools already integrated. So you can imagine that there's a lot of functionality that can be that we can bring here. So in order to build, let's say, a successful user experience, we rely and we search many different standards. And for the project, we adopted the NIST Incident Handling Methodology Guide. So the Incident Handling Methodology Guide from NIST says that the incident handling process consists of 4 different phases. The preparation phase, actually depicted in a specific menu item, the detection and analysis phase, the containment, eradication, and recovery phase, and the post-incident activity phase. Let's start one by one and see what we have further implemented there. So the preparation phase, what the guide says, each organization needs, first of all, to register the security team, needs to register all the members within the organization that probably takes a specific role and actions when an incident occurs. So what we have here is we allow the organization to register either internal organization contacts or external organization contacts. What Luis mentioned before, we implement an asset inventory for the organization. And so we allow the organization to list all of the digital assets, all of the cyber assets that actually operate within the organization. The creation process of these assets, it's semi-automated, let's say. And I will explain right away what we have implemented here. For example, we want each asset to have the exact common platform enumeration description, because we will use it later on to identify automatically vulnerabilities from NIST repository. For example, here, if I want to register a new asset, as you can see, this list brings me automatically all the list of available vendors worldwide taken from NIST repository. So assuming that I'm going to have a software Microsoft product, upon choosing the vendor, here I have all the different products known for this vendor. For example, I want an SQL server. And upon selecting the product, the system brings me automatically all the known versions of this product. So when completing this process, of course, I can also name the asset. I can specify this, the internal asset IP, the business value, the criticality, the rank privileges within the organization, and so on. I can build what we call the asset cartography of the organization. And what else? Upon specifying each one of these assets, I can have automatically the vulnerabilities of these assets, the known vulnerabilities, not what a CM will runtime identify when reading the logs or correlating events and so on. So I can choose the footprint. I can see for this asset, for example, that I have a number of given threats for given vulnerabilities. So what we can do and what we allow the organization in this preparation phase, in this first phase, is first of all to build the asset inventory, to manage the internal security teams, and then to perform easily risk assessments. By performing risk assessments, the organization is aware of what is the state of the art in terms of security, of course, within this organization. So probably based on this state of the art report, I can build controls, I can mitigate known vulnerabilities that I have identified from my assets and so on. This, the analysis of a risk assessment is, first of all, we depict the same asset cartography within the organization, but now you can see with the colors the risk level of each asset. And upon clicking on each one of these assets, you can see heat maps with threats and vulnerabilities. You can have detailed lists of attack scenarios of risk. This is the correlation of threat with the vulnerability. It actually the orientation, the definition of a risk. So we can have the full security footprint of each asset, but we can also have we can also build specific graphs, interactive graphs for all the infrastructure and the risk identified. We can also report the risk analysis by level, in which you can find at each level the number of assets with their attack scenarios here. And we also give different perspectives. From the asset perspective, you can also view the threat profile of each asset. And last but not least, from the asset perspective, you can have the full list of the attack scenarios automatically calculated by registering your assets within this preparation phase. So, detection and analysis phase. This is the, as taking the title and the name of this phase, as you can understand, this is the phase in which CMs, most of CMs or data analysis or anomaly detection mechanisms real-time monitor our assets of course, deploying specific vendors, sensors, and so on. But as you can understand, this is something that the security professional is able to almost real time see what are how many security incidents have been identified. If I have new security incidents in my critical infrastructure or organization, whatever, let me present this one. For example, I can view the list of security incidents. For each one of the security incidents, I can have the very exact description of the security incident. In order, I will make a small parenthesis here. In order for our platform to be extensible, since, as I said before, till now we integrate almost 13 existing tools, and in the near future we would like all of the available tools to be integrated, if possible, in this dashboard. We didn't follow the strategy, the integration strategy of integrating one by one customly with the tools we had. So we, based on the Elastic Common schema, we adopted the CyberSANE common Elastic Common schema, and upon respecting this model, whatever future tool can easily integrate with our dashboard. And our dashboard can be fed easily with the data coming from these tools. For each one of security incidents, attack patterns, or anomalies, of course, we follow the same approach. We have the list, we have the full description as provided from the tools behind it. And of course, we perform analysis, building either timeline analysis or type analysis based on the severity of the identified event and so on. And of course, what we can offer here is for the administrator of the organization to build as many alert configuration as he prefers. And what is this alert notification? This alert notification, for example, allows the administrator to select the type of the event, either if this is a security incident or anomaly or an attack pattern, and the severity, one or more of these types. And of course, taking from the list of the organization users and the internal contacts, he can select as many contacts as he prefers, and the system, upon discovering a new security incident, will automatically apply this alert notification, sending alerts to these contacts, to these emails. So you don't have to be continuously online using our dashboard. You will be notified automatically via email, today via email, tomorrow with the other channels as well. So you can see the alert, and you can come later on this dashboard in order to further analyze what has been identified within the organization. At the same time, we allow the security, the organization automatically to see if the name of the organization is being discussed within the deep and dark web. This is a mechanism that we is executed once a day. So we can see, for example, for this organization, that there's no there's any article published in the deep and dark web using this name, but the type in which the organization, the sector, the industry of this organization is quite popular, because we can see several publications for energy and mining energy sources, for example. This is something probably interesting or not for the security professional in order to, yeah, of course.
How does that exactly work, this deep web scan? Because I guess a lot of these websites, they have to be known. I guess it's like a collection of forums that you know of, and you scan those forums on the dark web for your mentioned group.
Yeah, there is a crawling. Actually, there is Medusa. It's one of the tools that we rely for this deep and dark web crawling. Medusa already implements many configurations inside it, but we allow also the administrator to even add custom crawler configuration to be applied in the next crawling process that will take place within Medusa.
To your question, more important than knowing the sites are having the right credentials to keep doing the scrapping and not being blacklisted, and not being marked as being a scrapper.
Yeah.
You also have to make fake accounts to log in.
Yeah.
You need to
That is what Medusa is doing.
simulate that it's a human behind that account and not a bot. That's the hard part, not knowing. Knowing the sites is a part, but getting to stay active in those sites so that you can keep a foothold there to scrap everything else, it's a much harder issue.
And how do you collect the addresses? I guess you cannot enumerate, or can you?
No, it goes from your security personnel that are experts on the matter and from references, but there is no, I think, there is no automated way to do it.
And of course, for example, if I want to search for a given using a given keyword in a specific date range, I can have a number of articles published in the deep and dark web. For each one is here. You can read it. You can have the list of the onions that have published these articles. You can have also different analysis based on the categories and concepts of this crawling process and what is being taught recently in the deep and dark web. Many different analysis, let's say, and graphs based on what we found on this crawling process. And with this, we can also, we allow also the security professional to be able to search and crawl the open web using the event registry tool beside this. For example, again, malware for this month. We can see a number of articles published using this keyword, because probably I've seen a malware attack in my security incidents. So I want to take the proper decision, and I want to be advised what is going on here. Containment, eradication, and recovery. So again, what we said before, upon identifying an attack, a security incident, you need somehow to take actions. You need somehow to create a strategy that need to be followed internally in the organization in order to mitigate this and eradicate and recover from these attacks. As you can understand, automatically we can, as CyberSANE project, we can offer services for eradication and recovery. But what we can offer is for the containment phase, because we have the list of security incidents, we have the list of details, so we allow the organization here, first of all, to create strategies, building on the evidences already detected in the previous phase. So the organization here is able to create one or more strategies. For example, I had a brute force attack. So I want to publish within my security team that we need to follow step 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the description. And this is actually related with this one or more assets, with this one or more threats. These are a list of already specified assets, for example, threats, vulnerabilities, anomalies. And also this is related with this specific event, with this specific anomaly, or this specific attack pattern. This is the one thing that we can offer here. And another quite innovative service that we can offer, we allow the security professional to build what-if scenarios, attack scenarios, within his infrastructure. For example, if I want to determine if from this entry point, the attacker will be able to reach this valuable asset in my organization. And I have to also do for this, for this algorithm that we have built, to specify if the attacker skill is low, medium, or high, and specify the execution time. Why? Assuming that you have a big list of assets, as you can understand, the possible attack paths that probably an attacker can follow can be a huge list. So by setting the execution time, you say, you define to the system that, okay, I allow you to perform this analysis in this time range. So let us see, hopefully, some of the attack paths. Okay, so as you can understand, we have a big list of successful, the green one, paths, and some not successful paths, the red one. Let us see. As we can see here, the attacker will start from the MQTT broker. In this case, he will be able to exploit this vulnerability with the description here, and then he will continue attacking the next interrelated asset. But here we can also utilize the valuable data that we have from the previous phases. So we can easily bring to the security professional that here is the list of security incidents for this asset. Here is the list of anomalies that we have identified for this asset. So it's up to you to say if this is a valid attack path, if this is a valid scenario or not. Because on the long run, as we said before, this is a decision-making tool. We can't take any action. And last one, the post-incident activity. What we allow here we allow the security professional to build data sharing agreements. What is this? Specify sharing processes, defining the organization, the recipient, and so on. And of course, applying on this one the preferred privacy policy in order to do this. So we allow the security professional to build what we call lesson learned, again, similar with the strategies, with the evidences, and then perform the preferred privacy policy in order for this to be shared to other NISP instances, other organizations, individual recipients, and so on. So that's all. This is the way we have imagined of covering the incident handling process within an organization, based on the tools we have and based in what we know regarding advanced cybersecurity techniques and mechanisms. Whatever question you have, I will be glad to answer it at the end of this session.
Where did you put it?
Or
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Also from my side, I'm going to present briefly about the business plan and business model in a CyberSANE project and some activities that we did with the pilots. And as you know, this is also part of all the European projects that are funded by the European Commission, because this is an innovation action. So we should also bring these results to the market and be able, let's say, to commercialize as soon as possible after the end of the project. So for the exploitation and business planning in the project, we followed the step-by-step approach using, let's say, very well-known and acceptable tools and methods in the business, let's say, sector. From the customer empathy map to the value proposition canvas, and finally the business model canvas. These tools helped us throughout the different phases of the project development, from the initial phases, actually, from the design and the conceptual phase to the initial development with, let's say, with the requirements engineering and other activities like, let's say, use cases and test cases with the pilots. And these, let's say, these steps were repeated different times during the continuous development and integration phases, because we have also two pilot session, pilot operation with some organization and user organization that are part of CyberSANE consortium. And all these activities are as a support in order to finalize the exploitation and business plan that will guide let's say, the commercial activities after the project end. And actually, the project is going to finish officially by the end of August. So, of course, we are not immediately ready to go to the market with the let's say, with the technology as it is right now, because of course there will be some further activities in order to make the product more robust and fine-tune the final things. And of course, during this, let's say, further development activities, we will use this time in order to engage with other potential adapters and end user organization that might be interested in the CyberSANE platform. So as I was mentioning also before, during the different phases, so we started with the customer empathy net with the requirements engineering, as well with the customer validation, both from the technical and business side. And we prepared the first version of the joint exploitation plan, and this was also discussed and presented to the user advisory board of the project. And then we defined also the partner-specific exploitation plans We have two types of exploitation: research for the more research-oriented partners, so universities or research institutes, and commercial exploitation for all the industrial partners, companies, and particularly SMEs. So what is our go-to-market strategy that we are going to adopt in order to position the CyberSANE platform system in the market? There are some, let's say, as I was mentioned before, even though the project is going to finish by the end of August, the activities, the commercial activities, actually, they will start right now, because this is the time that we go and teach the CyberSANE system to potential customers and adopters. As I mentioned before, some of them are already part of the consortium, some others are part of the user advisory board, so they have been already informed, they have been, let's say, they have the time to, let's say, to test it, to try it themselves. They have provided to us, the technical partners, let's say, their feedback, and we have taken those in consideration in order to refine further the platform and the different systems that are integrated within it. And yes, so of course, there might be potential customers from different sides. So the needs that they have and they will present to us will be different. So our scope is also to adapt the CyberSANE system to the customer needs. And as you saw before, during also the previous presentation, the CyberSANE system has a modular architecture, so it allows us to integrate further components, further tools, also from existing, let's say, providers, but also from other providers. But also allows the customer to select which services they would like to adopt according to their needs. And of course, there will be the maintenance and support for all the time of, let's say, they will acquire the system. And also let's say, the possibility to provide additional services on top of the system. So, for example, training, let's say, specific training, according also to the particular sector that we are going to adopt. For example, in the project right now, we have 3 pilots, one in the e-health sector, we will see it also later, one in the energy sector, and one in the maritime sector. But of course, our, let's say, intention is to have as much as, let's say, as much as segmentation as possible. So not also targeting only these 3 segments. Also, part of the go-to-market strategy are let's say, the classical, let's say, elements like the sales that will be organized centrally by Maggioli, the system integrator, and they will be also executed nationally, let's say, by the partners, technical partners that are, let's say, operating in their specific markets. The distribution will be cloud-based, but also we will offer the possibility to let's say, to deliver it on premises, because for security reasons, some organization, particularly the public owned, let's say, organization, they might require to have everything installed in their premises instead of having a cloud solution. And and additional promotion activities in order to promote the validated services provided by CyberSANE, by also demonstrating into other exhibitions, events, and forums like also the one that we are today. Of course, the exploitation and business modeling is driven by the IPRS team, because this is a collaborative project, so we have different partners that are involved, that they have contributed in the development. Some of them, they provided background technologies and tools that they are already also commercializing, let's say, for their organization. But these tools have been, let's say, customized, enhanced, and fine-tuned based also on the project objectives and the project needs. And of course, for each of the modules or the components. Let's say we have different partners that have been involved and a different level, let's say, of maturity. But as I mentioned before, there will be some further activities after the end of the project in order to make the integrated platform, but also the single components as much as robust as possible. So in order to avoid also having any technical issues or any problems while using them. From the delivery model, we have adopting a model that follows 4 flavors, and for each of these flavors, basic, silver, gold, and platinum, there are different features included in order to offer the customers a way to, let's say, to select what are their, let's say, their needs, and also based on their size, but based also on their budget, available budget. And yeah, of course, these are also the starting point for a way to interact and engage with potential customers. But of course, this is not written in the stone. So we also offer the possibility to let's say, to have another model different from this. Let's say that is the standard for all the potential customers. And of course, we offer the possibility for monthly or yearly subscription for each of these flavors. But there is also the option to select a perpetual license, which is a one-time fee. But then there is a maintenance cost every year that will be adopted. So the flavors, as I mentioned before, so they include different features and elements that distinguish, let's say, one from each other. And as I also mentioned before, so these are the starting points. So if there is one organization that they say, I don't see my own organization represented here because probably I need more asset, but actually I need only one component and I need more users because my organization is very huge. So then we will, let's say, make, let's say, a targeted proposal in order to meet also these needs of the users. But this is, let's say, the starting point that will be also disseminated to the community in order to have some elements also for comparison from our competitors. And another thing that I wanted to mention with regard to the competitors, being this system so much, let's say, different and offering so much the possibility to integrate so much different tools, it is quite difficult to find one direct competitor that has all these features. So we have competitors for specific model or specific component, but we don't have competitors for the overall system. And so, based also on this, we offer the customers a possibility to make, let's say, a comparison of what is already existed in the market and what we are offering through the CyberSANE system. And so this is the pricing scheme that we have, let's say, reached as an agreement with the partners of the consortium. And we say with the support also of the user advisory board. As part of the project, there has been also a study of the market in order to, let's say, position how we are, let's say, doing compared to these other competitor tools, and that's why there are these prices. And so, with these elements that we have presented, we plan to reach, let's say, the break-even point by the end of the second year of the project. So if we manage successfully to deliver everything on time, starting for sure by let's say by next year, probably mid of next year or September of next year, I think that probably in 2 years we will be able to cover all the costs and from there to start having some profit. This, of course, will depend on different, let's say, variables, not only on the maturity of the system, also on the new potential technologies that might be arising or that can be also integrated in our system. So this will also bring the system to a different level compared to what is the status that what is today. Okay, I think that this was my last slide for today. If you have any question, I will be available also in the Q&A session later this afternoon. Thank you very much.
And so I think this is the last session before the coffee break, the much needed coffee break. Let's break a bit sooner, unless there are any questions. I'll take Salas as a no. So officially close it. Be back in 30 minutes.
In 15 minutes.
30 minutes. Thank you.
30.
Yeah.